foreign ideas and foreign forms managed to turn the tide in favor of the national dogma that the salvation or regeneration of India was then assured. The resistance of the conservative element in Hinduism, backward as it was, did save the country by preventing an even more rapid and thorough disintegration than actually took place. It did give respite and the time needed for the persistent national self to emerge and finally to find itself. So it was in religion that first the soul of India did awaken and triumph. Once the soul of the nation is awake in religion, it is only a matter of time and opportunity for it to throw itself on the spiritual and intellectual activities of the national existence and then take possession of it. The turning of India against European identity and European form drove listlessness and apathy away, and replaced this with energy and a new powerful emotion to prepare India for its place in the new age. The anglicized part of India must and is now rising up out of the bedrock of ancient truths and religion to create a new India. And now, politics must catch up with religion. And side by side, they must move into a new way of life. English knowledge and customs are meant for England and for Europe, and Indian religion and spiritual wisdom is meant for India. Now is the time that India must prepare to be in the future what America certainly is today. So there is a spiritual awakening taking place, and the Indian holy men have arisen to lead the way. Some have come out into the world to give a rebirth of spirituality to those in the West who have heard the call of the inner voice and have now become a New Age initiate to aid in leading the world into the heaven on earth. The New Age is now here. India will be the focal point, but there will be, as a result of Maharishi's pilgrimage in the West, a powerful phalanx of spiritual force that will now introduce universal wisdom by example over the whole face of the earth. Not to become Indians, but to be the foundation for heaven to descend onto the earth. Our names as initiates have now been inscribed in that scroll of immortality. And our soul is now homeward and Brahma bound. I'll hiss me when I get to that point. I don't think there's much question for that, but it has to be the truth. Any remarks? How many have been to India? Both of you. Very interesting place to go. Not so popular right now because they're having a lot of riots and a few other things going on over there. Maharshi had that course scheduled for this summer, but he had to cancel it because I don't think he wanted to place Westerners in jeopardy over there. But that probably will calm down in the near future. They have a lot of changes to make. A lot of people do not take kindly to changes, as you well know. So they're opposing much of this, but that'll straighten itself out. One thing about India, you step off the plane, and you feel a softness there that you won't feel anywhere else on earth. And a way of life that you won't find anywhere else on earth. I've been about everywhere else on earth, and I didn't find it anywhere else the same. India is different. It's a different country. People are different. Some are extremists. I remember one morning, it was very cold, some northern part of India, very northern part, with Pradesh. And I was standing at the edge of the road. Up the road came a whole group of naked sadhus. I'm standing at the top coat shivering. Here they come to the road. All they have is a baking bowl. A whole big group of them. Well, they grinned them a little bit, went on by. I was talking to Maharishi, he said, you know, Charlie, they generate such an alkaline force there that they're heated, you know, like having a built-in furnace. He said, if they sit in the snow, they will melt the snow. I sat in the snow and I froze something. There is a bit of difference. There are no churches in India as such. There's no great religious outpouring in India, but there's a great spiritual life. There are temples built to the gods, this sort of thing. I remember one time down in Benares, and they had the big monkey temple down there. So I said, "Are there many monkeys in there?" They said, "Yeah, there are monkeys in there." So I said, "Okay, I'll go and see a monkey." So I went on in, there wasn't a monkey anywhere. I walked all around, no monkeys. So I went back out and I said, "Not a monkey in the place." Well, they say, "He just pitched me a bag of peanuts." So I go back in. Do you know, in about 30 seconds, I had monkeys up to the eyeballs? Monkeys everywhere. They were dropping out of every place. All the peanuts were gone, the clocks were stripped, everything. That's the monkey temple. Shrine of Mother Divine, that's way up in the northern end of Kashmir. Very beautiful place. Shrine up there. When you approach a shrine, you walk around it clockwise 3 times. You stop at the front. And you go into the outer part of the shrine. And Mari says, "Get me coconuts." Well, when I got him coconuts, plural. And I got another batch of them. Cracks these things, drops all of it into the big water pond there. And the mother shrine itself is right in the center of the pond, like this water would be here, up so high, and a little figure of Mother Divine. So Maharishi set about to talk to Mother Divine. That's when I told her I was talking to Mother Divine. I'm busy getting coconuts. Squash him. He's pretty powerful. He used to be on a swimming team in college. He's got powerful. That's his mind. And every year, the 1st of January, they all gather there to look at the water. And the water tells them what the year will be. If the water's red, that's war. If the water's gray, that means kind of a depressing year, not much going on, nothing going on. If it's blue, iridescent bluish color, that means a lively, peaceful, harmonious year. All different colors, there's quite different colors, all have a very specific meaning. And it's never wrong. Every year, you know exactly. That's good. Not only this in Kashmir, I mean all the world. It's in the whole world. Very interesting. Now again, the emotional body is the hardest body that we have to control. That is, considering the physical, the emotional, and mental bodies. It's the last body to be brought into control and by far the most difficult to handle. The reason for this is the fact that the vibration of desire has dominated the human for so many ages. Therefore, before the spirit can function, take precedent in the human, the desire body has to be confident in selfish interests, have to be transmuted into spiritual desires. That takes a lot of doing. The emotional body has a very close connection with the physical body. As an average, human functions physically almost entirely. At the instigation of the emotional, the physical automatically responds to the higher emotional body. It is in the effort that we are now going through that the emotional body must be mastered, and this is very hard, as the very world we live in is a desire world. So in essence, we must transcend this world, and we cannot do this unless we're able to transcend the whole field of relativity and to infuse the pure essence of the absolute into a relative nature. In other words, we have to transcend this world. And we can't do it unless we're able to transcend the whole field of relativity. And we can't do that unless we have the means and the method to do it. This is what transcendental meditation is about. Because being able to transcend the whole field of relativity, we are then able to infuse the pure essence of the absolute into a relative nature. In other words, antimatter into matter. Absolute into the relative. So the emotional is also closely connected to the intuitional level and also has its effect. The desired effect is to have the emotional nature to be quiet and receptive, not overactive and out of control, and a dominating factor in our life. In most cases, however, it is. Also, the emotional nature should be positive and not negative. This in great measure calls for the conscious awareness of and conscious control of our emotional nature of our emotions. When we are out of control in our emotional nature, this affects the lower vehicle and causes activity of a destructive nature. This also shuts us off from our higher nature. We must balance the positive-negative polarity of this nature. When the emotional is in a negative attitude of not in control, this causes a transference of force or power to undesirable centers, such as straying from sexual purity to lust, even to one who's aspiring toward the spiritual. There should be an alignment or balance of the three bodies so that power transmitted from on high is not deflected in the wrong center, stimulated, producing negative results of varying natures or degrees. So we do have to be aware of our own nature. And in one case, discipline ourselves. In another case, do not force archetypes upon ourselves that we're not able to control. We are really concerned with the purification of all the vehicles. This is a vital concern in the years that now lie ahead. Most of our problems in life come as a result of fear. Fear causes a weakness, and the weakness causes disintegration. One thing is of paramount importance at all times is the use of common sense, so rarely used. Do not fall victim to false fears. Reason things out. Learn to reason to a conclusion and not from a conclusion. Most people reason from a conclusion. That's why it's a lot of fallacy there. Do not try to reach the goal of life tomorrow. Go at an easy pace and exercise caution. Get the necessary rest. Keep the mind positive but not foolish. This keeps the body positive also. And don't ever forget for one moment, the mind does control the body. So learn to relax. This adjusts and helps to obviate tension. Do not overtire the body. Again, do not become lazy. Do not let the mind play emotional tricks on you and for no reason disturb your inner calm. If there's a problem, approach it in a positive manner and most always it will be solved. The Lord helps those who help themselves. Learn to accept the responsibility that's yours and leave the rest alone. So hard to do. You ever notice that? So many people have an answer for everybody in this world but none for themselves. We're householders, and we're certainly not escapists. When we need guidance, ask God for guidance, and certainly will be given. Too many meditators in their pursuit of meditation attempt to jump from a gross physical in one grand leap to cosmic consciousness. It cannot be done. They concentrate more on the abstract side of life rather than on the factual or the real side of life. As a result of this, they become dreamy, visionary, impractical, emotional, and totally lacking in discrimination. That's why so many in our TM group have gone into so many other practices and fields. They simply lacked the discrimination, they became too emotional, became too dreamy, became a lot of things. This is still a lesson world, and life here still has great value. When we started to meditate, this was not a signal for us to stop learning and cease to be practical. It really means that we now have an enormous potential to draw upon to help us to be successful in life. We should be successful in what we attempt to do, not a drop out from all responsibility of life. One needs to learn the place where things fit in the scheme of things in one's trek through this world. Also, it is very true. Do what you have a talent for. And do what you're happy doing. Do what you enjoy doing. There's no point in struggling through life, doing something that you are not happy with or not happy doing. Or maybe you don't have a talent for it. If you are happy doing something, time flies by. I told you a long time ago, when I started out as an actor, it wasn't my dharma. It wasn't my karma, it wasn't anything. Just an idea in my head. Never worked out. But when I got into what I should have been into originally, I was very happy doing it. The days just flew by, the years flew by. 31 years went by before I left. It didn't seem like any time at all. Hard for me to imagine I spent 31 years doing that. Because I was always happy in the doing. I was doing what I was meant to do. As I told you before, sometimes in the morning, I'd be down in the ditch, talking to people who were digging the ditch, or laying steel or doing something, talking to them at their level. In the afternoon, I'd be sitting in the penthouse talking to the man that owned the vast corporation. So they told me in the School of Mysteries, they said, what you had to learn was to communicate at all levels. This is the thing that you never learned, how to communicate. Now you learn to communicate. You couldn't go down there as a big wheel, down in the ditch and speak their language. Also in the penthouse, you couldn't talk like somebody that just got out of the ditch. So, that's communicating. How to communicate. It's one of the failures of this world and of life. Our failure to know how to communicate. If you know how to communicate, you get along with most anybody. If you don't know how to communicate, you can't get along with anybody. It's very true. I had a boss for 20 of those 31 years. There's only 3 things you had to do. One was be on time. You'd go crazy if you weren't. Second thing, if you wrote him a memorandum, don't write him a book. Try and get everything in one paragraph. If you wrote a book, you go crazy again. Third thing was, when you add up your expense account, don't make a mistake. If you did, he went crazy. Only 3 things that drove him crazy. You'd be surprised how many of our people drove him crazy. I always remember when we had a sales manager we didn't care much for. Although most of us worked directly for the vice president. He didn't care for that either. But anyway, one morning, vice president said, again, I was looking at the expense accounts. One of you did not add it correctly. I've told you 100 times. I went through the office here the other day. There's 72 adding machines in our office. We had an enormous big office. 72 of them. He said, Charlie's the only one that added on the machine. Because I saw him sitting there adding it. So with that, the sales manager spoke up. He says, that's right, fellows. Bill is right. There's no excuse for it. Not at all. I don't want to even hear of an excuse. Vice President George, you're the one who made the mistake. We all fell out of our chairs laughing. He says, fellas, that's not very dignified. Yeah, you made a mistake. But it's strange. 3 little things like that. That's all it took to get along with him. There's always something about somebody. You find out what that is, you get along with them. Just be sure you're in tune with that. And that's not all it takes. What it has to be. People, generally speaking, like to like you. They have to go out of their way to dislike you. But it's amazing how disliked some people are. Because they never learn. And this is a learning world. This is we're here to learn. One time for a year or 2, I worked for the Douglas Aircraft Company. Got into no mistake, but anyway, I was there a year and a half. And the thing that impressed me was the fact that Donald Douglas would come down and walk through the plant. And he'd walk up to some man who'd been there on the drill presses or on the stamping machines or something for 18 years. Say, how are you, George? Like that. How you doing? This kind of thing. They thought that Donald Douglas was God. Because he learned how to communicate. The union came along and they said, well, we're going to unionize you. So the Douglas comes and said, okay, we'll hold a vote here. There wasn't anybody that voted for the union. So the NLRB came in from Washington and they said, well, boys, it's like this. Whether you like it or not, you're going to be unionized. So, you're unionized. But anyway, they thought that much of Donald Douglas. A little simple thing, he learned how to communicate. It's such an important thing in this world. So important. I didn't mean to give you a side lecture here, but true insight is when one learns which is the real from the unreal. There's always a fire that destroys, there's a fire that builds. And once you learn to discriminate between the two. Our objective from now on is to gain liberation, and this is not done through seeking to escape or deny the reality of this world. When you're in reality, it is real. It's only when you're out of reality do you see the Maya. We must use the things of this world as stepping stones to the rim of the well, and this is reality. Though we are concerned with deity, we should also be concerned with how deity manifests in this world, and that is also reality. It is true that we do concentrate upon form until such a time as form merges into the formless. The means of finding the self is by overcoming the self and not by ignoring the self. To live in life until we outlive life is a method to be used. Meditation fixes our attention on God while we're meditating and gives us greater insight and ability to fix our attention on the successful pursuits of our daily life. One is just as important as the other. Just as I have said for years to meditators, do not take your meditation into activity, do not take your activity into meditation. Both have to stand alone. When you come out of meditation, go about activity as if you had never meditated. Just be active. That is the natural process of integration. You infuse in silence, you integrate in activity. But not if you're going to hold the meditation to yourself and say, I won't let anybody in here, I'm full bliss, and all this kind of stuff. Just go about your business like you never meditated. That works perfectly. Now we overcome life by conscious knowledge and control and not by groping blindly through life, leaning on the crutch of blind faith. The greatest quality of faith is in what you know and not what you don't know. In this life we must learn the laws and then apply the law to ourselves. We well know there are no exceptions beyond the law. You know, this whole universe runs by split-second mathematical precision. Laws of creation. Now the secrets of the inner secret of the path of life will never be revealed to anyone who carries with him pride, curiosity, selfishness, and a desire for power. That is why the scriptures say, and the little child shall lead you. Again, there must be innocence on the path. It's meditation that burns out all of the undesirable qualities and frees us from our earthly shackles. Do not expect this to happen overnight. In one lifetime, you're more than lucky. It is true. When you stepped on the spiritual path, when you became an initiate, you can only be initiated in transcendental meditation once as a human being. Again, you only have 7 lifetimes left, no matter what. Average for meditators will be about 3. Possibility 1, probability not too great. Maybe with some. I asked my Rishi one time, how many would make it out in one lifetime? He says, 8 lifetimes. I recognize that. Many of them started from scratch, you know. All the way up that path. Quite fine. But the main thing is all done by devotion. The maximum devotion that you give to meditation is regularity of the practice. I mean regularity. Now that doesn't mean that if you meditate at a certain hour every morning, and for some reason you can't meditate at that hour, the day is shot. No. Meditate when you're able to meditate conveniently. But if possible, meditate before breakfast, meditate before dinner. If possible. That's the best time if you want to go. Get up, take your bath, dress if you like, put your robe on if you like, whatever you like, and then sit down and meditate. Don't meditate, then go bathe. Don't do that. Bathe first. Although we may recognize the God without, it is also very necessary for us to know the God within. And then combine the two into unity, into the oneness they've always been. This is the end purpose, the end realization of life. Now on the path of that realization. Just be faithful to the path. There's no future in hopping all over the place, running here and running there. As I've said to you on many occasions, we have meditators in Los Angeles who've been initiated by everybody who's passed through the city. That's true. One fellow told me he hadn't missed a soul. One little old lady told me one time in Beverly Hills, she said, you know, Charlie, she said, I take all the best these little yogis have to offer. Then I incorporate it into my own path. She went down the street, I thought she'd go down like a corkscrew. She walked a lot straighter than I thought she'd be able to. Can you imagine anybody? And another thing too, there's no such thing as being on two paths at the same time. How? If you're on one path, you're going a certain direction. You get on another path, one X's out the other. Some tried that too. Any question you want to ask about meditation while we're on the subject? Well, you know, Ellen's been sick for almost 7 years now. Very sick. And it's very difficult to not be a kid with somebody or something like that. I've been an old kidder, like jokester, but to a degree. But anyway, you can always learn from your marriage partner. Always. That's the reason you're married, if you want to know the honest truth about it. Because you do learn from each other. Now, it is true that as the marriage goes along down through the years, you do become very similar. It's any kind of a happy marriage at all. You do begin to think pretty much alike, and act pretty much alike. And if you've got a dog, he'll act the same way. You ever notice that? Is there any truth to the claim that people on the West Coast are more creative and spiritual? You know it. Because that is where the sun sets, and it seems that the sun draws out these qualities at the end of each day. It just pulls them right out of you. What more can I say to such a question? It doesn't make a whole lot of difference where you live. If you want to know the real truth, it's when the sun rises that it pulls a lot out of you. You're a whole lot better off facing the east in the morning, meditating when the sun comes up than any other thing. If you want to know the honest truth. And also, another thing too that's very good, if you have a bedroom that faces the east, when you get up in the morning and the sun is pouring in the window, there's energy, there's vitality, there's a cheerfulness and so forth that you feel. Did you ever notice that? Get up at the dark end of the house, you stagger around for a few minutes and look for the bed to dive back in again. You don't feel the same at all. But no, it doesn't really make a whole lot of difference. When the sun's setting, it's very nice, it's calm. At the end of the day is what it amounts to. It doesn't draw any particular thing out of you. It's just, well, pleasant. Many of you sat and watched the sunset. In California, we go what we call the Palisades, because you can see the sun gradually sink in the ocean. It's very beautiful, and it's very quiet, and very calming, and this sort of thing. But it doesn't have a whole lot to do otherwise. It doesn't draw all the qualities out of it. Compared to the East Coast, the West Coast is further along in its quest for spiritualism. Spiritualism. Why is it then that there is so much more crime, drug addiction, and materialism in California? You know why? Because it doesn't snow out. And there's just a whole lot more activity of that nature. I will say this, though, that we on the West Coast feel that the East Coast has the priority on much of that, or even Chicago or the center of the country. I don't think there's any priority on that either place. Now, we have a lot of trouble in Los Angeles, as an example, because we're so close to the Mexican border. The maintainer of the universe, maintainer, sustainer of the universe. Whenever the progress of the world is in a shaky condition, blurred or muddied, the Lord Vishnu, the maintainer, does come to earth as Lord Rama, Lord Buddha, Lord Krishna, Christ, or so forth. The path of the avatars is through Lord Vishnu. All religions come through Lord Vishnu. There are 24 main incarnations of God. Now, Lord Shiva, actually, in a final analysis, Brahma and Lord Vishnu merge into Lord Shiva. This is why we're on the highest path. It all merges in Lord Shiva. Because Lord Shiva is the liberator. Only through Lord Shiva can you be liberated. So this has to be the highest path, because the ultimate consideration of physical life itself is liberation. And we're on that path. Now, the absolute or ultimate truth is eternal bliss, inner nature to personal gods in the field of the relative. One end of creation is the inner creation. Eternal bliss is 1/16 of a column. Full moon is 16 columns. Column means unit of time and evolution. 1/16 is manifested in earth creation, or the mineral. 2/16 is the egg born. 3/16 is the animal. 4/16 is the mammal. 4/16 through 7/16 is the human being. 4/16 is undeveloped man. 5/16 more of the man. 6/16 still more. 7/16 highly developed. 8/16 cosmic consciousness. Full cosmic consciousness, 8/16. 8/16 to a full 16 are incarnations of God. Man's capacity is limited, God's capacity is unlimited. A human being in full cosmic consciousness has limitations due to the body. In cosmic consciousness, with the human body, you have the ability to know all there is to know about any one subject, any one time. God's capacity to know all there is to know about all subjects simultaneously. So you see the difference. So man's capacity is simply limited. God's capacity is not. Lord Krishna, as an example, is full 16. Full, complete. Now, the human rising to cosmic consciousness, I said, is not all-powerful. Let's do the body. Body of incarnations of God certainly carry no limitations. Vision and all senses of the human are limited. God's are not limited. He can see all things simultaneously. He can know all things simultaneously. Yogi can know all things, but certainly not at one time, because his capacity is limited. Man in full consciousness, cosmic consciousness, is not almighty, certainly. Almighty, able to do all things at the same time. Body of the man is of earth, ignorance, mud, dirt, clay, and so forth. Body of God is made of clear stuff. Clean, clear, mighty, with pure body senses unlimited. Cosmic consciousness is the same. The capacity of the action is what is different. Lord Krishna or Lord Vishnu in the field of relativity is at the top of relativity. So are the other five gods, five gods. All at the top of relativity. So 16 is Brahman, Shiva, Vishnu, Mother Divine, Ganesh, Surya are all at the top. This is at the top of the field of relativity. In and out of relativity, in and out of the absolute. 5 elements, earth, water, air, fire, space, or akasha, being the finest. All are a combination, all of us are a combination of these five elements. One of the five is predominant in each individual. Now you may come in onto earth here as a water sign. You say, oh, well, I'm water. You're simply going through that sign in this particular life. But actually you may be air, you see what I mean? I remember I went to mystery schools, I thought that I was water because I'm a Scorpio. They said, you're air, you always have been air. Oh, hot air. 5 channels of creation. Space, air, water, earth, fire. Again, all humans are a combination of these. Now each channel is a channel of creation. Undeveloped creation at one end, perfect creation at the other end. At the top of creation are each of the 5 gods. They're all the same level. Each individual is connected to one of the 5 gods. Don't ask me which one. I don't know. Current of Mother Nature rising upward, always upward going. Man is free to act. He can rise step by step, or he can go rapidly to the Godhead. Now that's what I tell you about when we become initiates. We're free to act. We can rise step by step, or we can go very rapidly. Now evolution is this path. Right out here through the 7 races. We're in the 5th race, but we have the ability to go this way. Straight up. Now we're going to intersect all these levels, you see what I mean? So there isn't any power, there isn't any ability we will not accomplish in going this way. We just accomplish it a whole lot faster. Now Maharishi told me in the beginning, the transcendental meditation was all-inclusive. Everything was in the scope of it. That is, as you went this way, you came into powers. Now, we should never offer powers, offer spirituality. Powers will come as you go along. All of a sudden, you'll have an ability you didn't have before. You don't know where it came from? Many people that I know, when they started as meditators, could not see auras. All of a sudden, they began to see auras. So these things all follow. However, if you take a particular course, you can accelerate that. But sometimes it's too fast for you, too difficult for the nervous system, so you have problems. Many, starting out on the path, acceleration, so to speak, dropped away because it was too difficult for them. Nothing wrong, just it was too soon for them. Mantras are pertaining to the gods at the top of creation. A medium of the Almighty, so to speak. Each God has 1,000 names. A name is not taken at random. A name is taken that has a special vibration. The most useful vibration for you. A vibration has the most specific effect that will take us from the gross to the subtle. This is why the effects are very rapid. So actually, our mantras are most pleasing names of God. We go by the way of the personal God because the spirit of the personal God and our spirit is one and the same thing. Except personal God is up here and we're down here. But taking the name of the personal God, we set up this vibration down here. That's why you don't only need a few minutes, so to speak, of meditation. 20 minutes, hour maybe, whatever. Maharshi one time wanted me to meditate 4 hours a day. I'll meditate maybe 2, 2.5, 3, something like that. But anyway, be that as it may. You're setting up this vibration, the vibration of God, of here, personal God, because we go by the way of the personal God, to the impersonal, but we're setting up that vibration down here. So how much of that can you stand? So this is the whole secret of transcendental meditation. This is what we call infusing the being. We're infusing the nature of this down here. Being, the absolute nature. Now, devotion to the personal God as well as the intellectual aspect, personal and impersonal aspect, both together. Man can bypass the personal God. This is why we go by the way of the personal God, because we can bypass the personal God. Personal God then becomes the boat. When you get out of the boat, you get into the spirit of the personal God. The spirit of the personal God, again, is the same as our spirit. The soul is the same. We take the name of the personal God and get into the spirit of this, which is our own spirit. Our meditation is the fulfillment of Vedanta and Yoga both. Yoga is union. When you bring the divine nature, silence, and bliss into the field of activity, this is Vedanta. It's silence and bliss into the field of activity. This is, everybody ever wonder what Vedanta was. That's what Vedanta was. Vedanta is meant to transform the self-consciousness, which is you, into cosmic consciousness. Yoga brings a state of union. Vedanta then transforms this by reducing the yoga, and this brings the conscious and objective world reduced to self-consciousness, and this is yoga or union or communion. After yoga is done, or samadhi is experienced, then starts the realm of Vedanta in order to transform or make that state of being lived in the field of activity. And this is the fulfillment and the whole purpose of life. After yoga has been accomplished, or samadhi is experienced, being, then starts the realm of Vedanta. In order to transform or to make that state of the being live in this life of the field of activity. This is why activity is just as important as the silence. Just as important. And this is why I've said to all of you, when you come out of meditation, just go into activity in a natural way, as if you've been meditating. Don't hold it in your mind, don't hold it in your thoughts, just go into activity. Go eat your breakfast. So much about states of consciousness. All are in different states of consciousness, so to speak. If we're in a common state of consciousness, we have a common bond. You see what I mean? Low states of consciousness, more ignorance, obviously. High state of consciousness, much less ignorance. Much more attainment, much more attunement. You come to a certain level in life where you become a seeker. You're seeking truth is what you're seeking. But then again, there has to be careful guidance, because you can't inadvertently step on the wrong path. You mix up with spirits or something else. It'll drag you down. But I also find that if you are sincere, and if you sincerely ask to be shown the truth, you will be shown the truth. Now you blindly strike out in all directions. The blind dog in the meat market, don't tell what will happen to you. There has to be a little bit of order there. In inert creation, going on through the human kingdom to the angels and beyond. At the top of creation, perfection. The perfect God, perfect eyes, see all things at one time. God Almighty has power of action. The impersonal God is consciousness. Almighty God is conscious. And you see the difference between the impersonal and personal? Personal God is conscious. Almighty Father. This is why we pray to Almighty Father. Absolute highest, who is conscious. Praying to impersonal would be praying to consciousness. What answer would you get? Wouldn't get one. So you pray to Almighty Father. Now, Almighty Mother, aspect of Almighty Father. That's why the original human beings were androgynous. Male and female unto themselves. Almighty Father. Basically androgynous. Highest degree of attunement. So Almighty Mother, Mother aspect of creation, is aspect of Almighty Father. You understand that? However, right now is the time when the Mother aspect predominates. This is why the Catholic Church puts so much emphasis on Mother Mary. Also, this is the time when mother countries predominate. Father lands aren't doing too well. The mother countries are. Now, in the field of God, certainly we have the impersonal and the personal. One is capable of action, the other is all-pervading, no action. When a special representative of the government is sent to earth,